The people who attacked the Capitol Police need to be charged with attacking a police officer.
There are people dressed up in MAGA hats and other gear that are pretending to be MAGA supporters, and they're instigating.
When it comes to accountability, the president needs to understand that his actions were the problem, not the solution.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order, but we can't play into the hands of these people.
They escorted right here, waited for them to get off their buses, and they had the state troopers unloaded and took their positions. There's that guy, he had his lights on, they were coming, and then there's the ones up front too. They escorted, and each one of those buses are labeled. They're all paid charter buses.
Look at that, bro.
You traitor! You traitor! You traitor! You're a traitor! Lindsey Graham, you are a traitor to the country!
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Hey, has anybody seen Nancy's laptop? I'm hearing she might be having some trouble finding that. But other than that, is there anything to talk about? I don't know, maybe big tech purge, maybe anti-FA posing, impersonating Trump people. What about that weird gold coin in Mike Pence's hand? What about that strange sign that was flashed to Mitch McConnell? Oh, and don't forget John Boy from Utah. Yeah, we got a little bit to talk about. And most importantly, we're going to end with some encouragement that is greatly needed at this time. Let's go.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Okay, as usual, let me get the usual housekeeping out of the way. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please, especially on Facebook, leave a comment, leave a comment, leave a comment. We have had our biggest 28-day period. It eclipsed the previous biggest 28-day period after the Zuckerberg bots squashed down, and so I'm very thankful to this audience for that. Please go to ohioforfreedom.com and subscribe. We're going to begin utilizing that. There was one tab where we got the email, but you didn't get the response that let you know that we got but I think we have that fixed. But if we had to add you manually, you've been added manually. And then lastly, folks, we need to do some fundraising for this program. Everybody that's helped out, we really appreciate it. But I got a special offer, and I'm going to retroactive it. People have asked me about that Sweet Sound of Freedom clip that I use in these videos. That is from an album project that was like 80% finished when all this lockdown business happened, and it's called The Sweet Sound of Freedom. And there's another song that I'm going to play just a bit of in a bit called America, I Have Faith in You. And so what I'm going to do is anybody that would like to help us out, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but I do want to mention it. If you want to help us out through PayPal on the website, we're going to send 3 MP3 files that I really think you'll... And listen, you don't have to like my music to, appreciate this channel. That's fine. Everybody's got their own taste, and I totally get that. But I am going to send out a full mix of The Sweet Sound of Freedom. It's a good tune. It really is. I'm pretty proud of that song. And America, I Have Faith in You. And then just for fun, I've got a parody that we did here in the studio called Contact Trace and so what I'm doing is anybody that would like to help us out at all, I'm sending those 3 out. We're going to email them to you, and I'm going back, and every previous donor, we're going to send that out too. And then we'll also put you on a special list because I do have some album projects coming up in the new year. One's going to be just a parody project only. One's going to be a project that I'm finally going to finish. And near the end of the year, we're going to do a Christmas album. So anyway, just keep that in mind. All right, I want to get started. There's a lot to talk about, the things that I mentioned, but there was an interview that I saw, a segment with Martha MacCallum. I didn't see it on Fox. I saw it on the internet. So, because I'm avoiding Fox as much as I can. Goodness sakes, we'll talk about that too. But Ben Crenshaw had an exchange with Martha MacCallum, and everything about that exchange, it just riled me up, y'all, because I feel like that little 3-minute segment with Martha just so embodied what we are so tired of. And everything about rhinoism is just so encapsulated in that interview. I'm going to spend a few minutes on it, and then we've got a lot to get to after that. So I'm going to play the first clip from Mr. Crenshaw and he was in exchange with Martha McCallum, who was basically okay. But let's get to that clip, and then we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, let me be as clear as possible here. So Senator Cruz and Hawley, I disagree with them in a fundamental way about the constitutionality of this process on January 6th, the ability of Congress to overturn any electoral votes, period.
Well, he just spoke two lies there. First of all, he says he disagrees with them constitutionally. No, he doesn't disagree with them constitutionally. Constitution is very clear that a congressman can object, and if a senator signs on, there's an objection. And I could show you clips. I know you've already seen them going back years and years and years of this exact process happening. We're not going to go there. So that's lie number one. And then he uses that pretext to say that an election can be overturned. They never said anything about an election being overturned because of January 6th. If the votes are not real and accurate, that's another matter. But he's so far got two lies under his belt. Let's keep going.
But let's be very honest. Senator Cruz and Senator Hawley were not hyping up January 6th. They were not calling for people to fight in the streets. They were not saying this was our last stand. That being said, many members of Congress did do that. Many commentators did do that. Many in the media have been doing that for the last few weeks, constantly saying this is our time to fight.
There's lie number three. Nobody has called for fighting in the streets, but he's on air. He can just stay on a roll. But the fact of the matter is, there isn't one congressman, there isn't one senator that has called for fighting in the streets. He can't name me one person in recognizable media that has called for fighting in the streets. Now, fighting for a principle, obviously, but once again, he's telling a lie because he's on a roll. Nobody has called for fighting in the streets. Crenshaw, you're a liar.
And let me tell you something very clearly. They've been lying to people. They've been lying to millions. They've been lying that January 6th was going to be this big solution for election integrity. It never was going to be. I mean, 2 hours of debate, forced 2 hours of debate, that was just some time for some opportunistic politicians to get 5 minutes of time on the floor.
Lie number four. Cruz, Hawley never said what the outcome of January 6th would be. They simply wanted to object. They wanted things to be looked at. Ted Cruz was calling for a 10-day bipartisan commission to look at facts. And see, Mr. Crenshaw never talks about looking at facts. He's obfuscating, and he's the one that's doing the lying. I guess you've picked up on that. Ben Crenshaw, my opinion, is a liar.
It was never going to solve anything, and it was always unconstitutional.
How much bigger of a lie do you want to tell, Ben? No, it's not unconstitutional. We've all probably read the language about duly elected and, the actual language that governs how the vice president would look at accepting these electoral votes. But the process is clearly spelled out in the Constitution and laws that have followed since then. There's nothing unconstitutional about what Senator Hawley, Representative Mo Brooks, Senator Cruz were all about. It's really sad and disgusting, but yes, Ben Crenshaw is a liar.
You have to have these hard battles won at the state level. That's where the hard work is done. That's how you solve the important question of election integrity, and they lied to people.
How many lies are we up to? I kind of lose track. You want it, election integrity battled out at the state level? Well, that was your opportunity, Ben. All the vice president had to do was say, this looks suspect, this doesn't look right. All he had to do was send it back to the states, and several of those states would have sent the results back different. There were dual sets of electors. No, he's lying to us again. He doesn't want the states to settle it. Because make no mistake, if the vice president had sent the results back to the states and said, take another look at this, things would have turned out differently, and Ben Crenshaw knows it.
They said, go fight. Go fight because everything's on the line. That's what they said. And when people fought, they came to fight, and then they fought Capitol Police, and now people are dead. And those same members of Congress who called people to fight, well, they were nowhere to be found because it was all fun and games to them. They never knew what a real fight was. Real fights are scary. Bullets flying, that's scary. The glass breaking, that's really scary. They were nowhere to be found. They scattered.
You know what he just did? He played the John McCain card. Let me be real clear. I appreciate and respect and admire everyone's service in the military, and I appreciate Mr. Crenshaw's service in the military, but I want to be real clear. I don't want to offend anybody, but just because someone went in the military and even came back with an injury does not place them above criticism. It doesn't give you a free pass for the rest of your life. That's the John McCain card, because every time that John McCain would make a rhino charge, which was basically what he did all the time, the media would rush in, this man's a war hero. Yeah, okay, war hero. That doesn't place him above criticism. And once again, he's going back to the same light. Nobody ever called for fighting it out. But you can't criticize Mr. Crenshaw because he's a war hero. Crenshaw's response was, did you even read past the first sentence, or are you purposely lying so you can talk tough? Crenshaw tweeted in response. No one said give up. I literally said investigate every irregularity and use the courts. You're a member of Congress now, Marjorie. Start acting like one. Okay, I'm going to get off of Mr. Crenshaw, but I wanted to just include that story from the Politico about a Twitter exchange that was made between him and newly elected Congresswoman from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was saying we need to fight, and that doesn't mean on the streets, Ben. Stand up with some backbone for the president, and he's lecturing her, you need to act like a member of Congress. Well, Mr. Crenshaw, amidst all those bullets that you dodged and all that broken glass that you avoided, somewhere along the line you seem to have lost some fire that Marjorie Taylor Greene has. And so, folks, I've spent quite a bit of time on this. It's just this one clip to me it just represented everything that is reprehensible about these rhino Republicans and the kind of treatment that I sincerely hope they all get going forward would look something like this.
You traitor! You traitor! You traitor! You're a traitor! Lindsey Graham, you are a traitor to the country! You know it was rigged! You know it was rigged!
Lindsey Graham deserves every bit of that. Mitt Romney deserves every bit of the treatment that he's gotten. Mitch McConnell needs to get it. Ben Crenshaw needs to get it. Senator Cotton, who I used to admire, needs to get it. Everybody that simply passed on just doing the right thing. And you know what? If you actually look at the facts and they turn out whichever way they turn out, everybody could live with that, but they didn't want that to happen because if you look at the facts, they knew how it would take place. But I do have a little silver lining, and I know that many of you are familiar with what I'm going to mention next, but during all that chaos in the Capitol building and Nancy Pelosi's gavel, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I do have a bit of an exclusive there, but if they were in Nancy Pelosi's office, who else might have been in Nancy Pelosi's office? Is it possible that amidst all that chaos that certain laptop computers and other devices might have come up missing? And if they came up missing, who might have those devices now? It's interesting. When all those Trump mobsters went through there, well, actually they weren't Trump mobsters, because inconveniently yesterday it broke that Johnny B. Utah, previous rabble-rouser BLM activist that had been arrested and charged with a misdemeanor and a felony in Utah, was actually one of those people in the Capitol building. And it's out there, and you can't hide it. It kind of blows a hole in the false narrative that these Trump people went bad. I'm going to show you a story here real quick. Let's take a look. Town Hall, January 7th, Utah man with a history of organizing violent Antifa BLM protests was inside the Capitol. Here he is, John Sullivan. A young man named John Sullivan was there. He's from Utah, founder of Insurgents USA, a group dedicated to racial justice and police reform. According to news reports, he has a history of organizing leftist protests and identifies with Black Lives Matter. Quite a bit of information, and it says that John Sullivan, known on the Utah protest scene, was inside the U.S. Capitol. He got in through a broken window. Well, that doesn't sound criminal, does it? He says he was there to document the protest, no matter what. He watched a woman die and could now face charges. Now, whether they end up charging this young man or not, he was there, and I'm going to save you the time, but if you look up his history there in Utah, he was charged with a misdemeanor, he was charged with a felony, and a $7,500 bail. Now, I didn't look into how they just, the disposition of where that case is right now, but at the very least, ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't that place John Sullivan under probation from the state of Utah? Well, what's he doing in Washington? And he'd have to be on probation unless they've got a George Soros DA that just completely threw it out. So if he's on probation and then he's doing this business in Washington, D.C., and if he doesn't get charged, then everything that Lindsey Graham was talking about at the very beginning of this video is a bunch of hogwash. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I know I'm reiterating plus saying the same thing twice and being redundant, but it wasn't Trump people that caused the breaking in. By the way, go to ohioforfreedom.com, and in the hot links, I have posted a link to the best 6 minutes of video that I've seen from anybody that shows all the different camera shots of Antifa coming in and being escorted by the police. I mean, and I don't know who put it together, but it's an excellent shot there. And I'm going to tell you a little story. I was contacted by someone, and I just got to be careful about what I say, but someone called me, and they were there on for the Trump rally, and the night before, from their motel, they had a clear view of the Capitol building, and this individual just had a burden to pray and basically prayed all night. And as was related to me, that's just not their usual habit. It's like they were impressed to pray for the Democrats and for the Capitol building, believe it or not. The next day, needing to charge their phone, they offered a $20 bill to charge their cell phone for a few minutes with some people that were at a pickup truck that was just a couple of hundred yards. I mean, just right across from the Capitol building. That alone was strange. So while they're agreeing to charge the telephone, it was noticed that these folks had strange little earpieces and little devices on their belt, and when asked about it, they said, "Oh, we're just listening in, to everybody's conversations." Well, that seemed weird, and they wanted to get away from those people because it just didn't feel right with them. But later in the evening, when it was time for everybody to go home, on the train home, a group of people was sitting on the train with the same kind of devices and the same kind of like walkie-talkie looking things on their belt, and was offering, "Look, we've got Nancy Pelosi's gavel," and showing that on their phone. And folks, earpieces and listening to people, you might say, well, that would have been like FBI or undercover this or undercover that. Yeah, but those people don't need to take a train to get home, do they? And I just found that interesting. And if I can put a wrap on this person that contacted me does not want to talk to media. I'm kind of like skirting up the edges even talking about it right now, because it just frankly feels dangerous to him. But folks, I'm sorry if I'm rambling here. I just want to say to you that it is, and everybody knows it, these were not Trump people that did this. Yes, there may have been a couple of people that got caught up and went through an open door or went someplace they really shouldn't have, but the destruction and anything that was violent, that was not Trump people. And Big Tech doesn't want it to get out, because that is why you're seeing the great purge. Let's talk about that just a little bit as we are trying to close here shortly. Epic Times, January 9. Nikki Haley likens Trump Twitter ban to act of Chinese Communist Party. So how long will it be till they ban Nikki Haley's Twitter account? I don't know, but yesterday was a big day for Twitter. Shut down the president forever. Shut down Sidney Powell forever. Shut down General Michael Flynn forever. I believe Lynn Wood is out. And the list just grows. Then later in the day with this big tech purge, and folks, ask yourself, why are they doing this? Why aren't they easing into it? It's because they're scared. It's because they don't want the word to get out. They don't want anybody to find out what's on anybody's laptop. They don't want anybody to find out what certain individuals may be telling to certain people while President Trump is still president. But later in the day, and I'm sure you already, I remember when I got and it was a weird feeling, but I got an email from someone that said, looks like they're shutting down Rumble, or rather Parler. And I go to Parler, and everything's like spinning and eventually connecting. And then you find out that Apple has said that they are not going to support Parler. And Google has said they're not going to support Parler. And then I had seen an episode from Steve Bannon's War Room earlier that I wanted to finish, and I go there and boop, content has been removed. And folks, that's why I'm encouraging you. I know this is a small voice, but we need small voices. So please go to the website and subscribe, because you don't know who's next. But also I would say, don't be surprised if we start hearing messages on the emergency broadcast system. Okay, there's no way that I can cover everything and try to be the latest, greatest, whatever. I just want to chip in my 2 cents. But I'd like to just offer a little bit of encouragement. And I want to do that by playing you just a few seconds of a song, if you don't mind.
America, I have faith in you. When the chips are down, I know somehow you're gonna make it through. When we all pull together in this great red, white, and blue, oh, America, I have faith in you.
Okay, I'm not trying to be self-indulgent here, folks. I'm really not. I'm an average songwriter, but I'm a songwriter. I'm an okay singer, but I am a singer. And I'm a musician, average, but I am a musician. So that's kind of the world that I live in. But that song, America, I Have Faith, and I'm telling you this story because I want you to relate this to you and your life and your experience. But I wrote that song on March 13th of 2020, just as the lockdown was hitting. And it came to me in about 20 minutes. And my wife and I shot that video with what we have, and that's where the flags come from, and the little Ohio for Freedom clip and everything like that. But I want to tell a story. Because the lockdown was just hitting, and we didn't know anything about this, COVID-19 and all of that. But I remember walking into a big box store, and for some reason, just seeing the people, I almost started bawling, because I had this sense of, God, you love everybody in this building. They might not like me, I might not like them, but God, you love everybody. And I bumped into some ladies with a shopping cart that was overflowing with like frozen dinners. And I walked up to them and I kind of made a joke and I said, y'all, you think you better stock up? And they kind of laughed and they said, well, we want to make sure we don't want to run out of food for Meals on Wheels. I almost started bawling. I get home and I find out that my wife was on Facebook, because nobody knew what this was. And there was a young man she used to work with that had just had a baby 6 months ago, him and his wife. And they're posting, hey, because people are afraid to drive anywhere. And he's posting saying, if anybody needs formula, if anybody needs diapers, let us know. We'll drive it out to you. And I was just like, God, people are good. There's good people out there. And so it was kind of that spirit, and that was what was going on with me when I wrote that song. And then, with me, I write a song, and then you kind of come back to it, you tweak it a little bit, and, maybe change a little bit here, change it, just kind of tweak it up. But the next day, the third verse came to me, and I'm just going to tell it to you, and then I'm going to play it for you. And this either makes sense or I'm being self-indulgent. Again, that's not my intent. But the third verse says, America, when they've tried to take you down, with pride, you've reached down deep inside and stood your ground. I'm sorry, y'all, I wouldn't plan on that. And I believe the will to fight can still be found. Let me play that for you, and I'm going to tell you why I think this is important.
America, when they've tried to take you down, With pride you've reached down deep inside and stood your ground. I believe the will to fight can still be found. Oh, America, don't let them take you down. I don't have...
All right, once again, I'm really not trying to be self-indulgent about that song. You might not like the song. That's fine. But this is within the realm of my experience. This is the world that I live in. And I want you to relate this, I really do, to the world that you live in. So I had written this song, and then that verse comes along the next day. And honestly, it felt out of place. It just felt like, I'm like, does this even fit? And it wasn't just a few weeks, maybe a couple months later, that I have grown to identify with that verse more than any other part of the song. And so here's where I'm going with this, folks. God put that in. Now, God works through my mediocrity, okay? I want to get that out of the way, but it's my mediocrity, okay? It belongs to me. But there was something in that song that looked ahead to what we were going to be facing, what I was going to be facing, what you're facing. And that's what I want to talk about. Because right now, this has been a tough week, okay? Emotionally, it has. I don't care who you are. It's been tough, I don't think my faith has been shaken, but my emotions have been shaken. And what I'm trying to say is that I keep going back to these little things that God put in my heart. And the fact of the matter is when you walk around your daily life, you go to the grocery store, you go to work or whatever, it's weird because at least half of the people that you're looking at and interacting with, they don't realize what's going on. I don't just mean in the sense that they might not agree. They don't realize the very danger that we're dealing with right now. Well, if you do, I'm just encouraging you. Thank God that you get it. Thank God that you understand it. But I'm willing to just believe that along the way, God has put little things in your heart, little knowings, little believings. Well, keep believing in that and keep trusting in that. And I'm going to close. I want to just share some scripture with you, if that's okay. Because I believe that deliverance is coming, folks. I really, really do. I've never wavered on that, and I don't know how. And it might be from the most unlikely of places, involving the most unlikely of people. But anyway, 2 Kings 7, then Elijah said, hear the word of the Lord tomorrow. Thus saith the Lord, tomorrow about this time a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then a Lord, on whose hand the king leaned, answered the man of God and said, behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? He mocked, because they had been in a time of famine. They were starving. People were dying. And the prophet answered, and he said, behold, you'll see it with your eyes, but you'll not eat thereof. And this is the part that I'm getting to. And I won't always close with scriptures, or maybe I will, I don't know. But I love this. There were 4 leprous men at the entering in of the gate, and they said one to another. By the way, leprous men, these were nobodies, folks. These were worse than nobodies. It never mentions their name. And if you had leprosy, you had an incurable, fatal disease in those times, and you were the scourge of society. But they said, I'm going to come back to that, why sit we here till we die? If we say we enter in the city, then the famine's in the city. If we die, and we'll die there. If we sit here, we die also. So let's go fall into the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live. If they kill us, we shall but die. And so they went and found out that God had scared all the Syrians away, and they left behind a bunch of food and a bunch of gold and a bunch of clothing, a bunch of raiment. And they were in the process of ransacking the second or third tent. And they said, we better tell other people about that. But I want to say, I love that passage of scripture because it describes like a moment of clarity where it's like God pulled the veil back and they saw it for what it really was. And they said, if we sit here, we die. If we go into the city, we die. Let's go to the enemy's camp and maybe we'll live. But they took action. God put something in their heart. The same way that, You know, when I love the story of David and Goliath. He walked up on the people of and Israel. It said they were dismayed. There was a uniform mindset of defeat and despair, but David just saw it differently. And I believe that if you are crazy enough to still be watching this video, I am willing to believe that there's something in your heart that believes differently also. And that's the encouragement that I have for you. Folks, this isn't done. Before those 4 leprous men had this moment of awareness that spurred them to action, everybody was done for. Everybody was dying. Everybody was starving. But from the most unlikely of people, God just advanced the plan that he had known all along. I believe there is a plan. I believe with all my heart that there is a plan. And this isn't over, and this isn't done. And I just want to encourage you to keep the faith. I hope that was encouraging to you. If you want to help us out with a contribution, I know it's going to sound like a plug. I'm going to send you that song and 2 others, all right? But please subscribe. And if for some reason you hit send a subscription and don't get an email back, we will get that corrected. We're working on that. Folks, keep the faith. God's got this. God's got this. He's got this. Until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio. And God bless the United States of America.
I hear the sweet